Thanks, Yamin. Over to you. I'll keep on
Okay.
admitting the participants.
Okay, thank you. So we have over 50 now. So shall we start the evening? And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Reader Club online discussion. I am Shaminini from British Council, Myanmar, and it's a pleasure to welcome you this exciting conversation, discover how books shape our life, featuring our award-winning Sri Lankan author Anju. And today is about celebrating the power of story. Those have shaped us, inspire us, and simply give us when we need it most. So I hope you will find the session as enriching as it's passionate. So before we begin, please note that today's session will be recorded. If you have any concern, you are welcome to turn off your camera. And now I'm delighted to invite our colleague David Mena, Country Director, Ethiopia, to give a few words, opening remarks, and to introduce Anju. Over to you, David.
Thank you very much, Yamin, and a very, very warm welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to see so many people who are interested in stories, so many people who are interested in literature, in books, in libraries. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I was just speaking to my colleagues a minute ago and saying I've been very privileged to work in 10 British Council offices around the world, many of which have had libraries. And the centres that have had the libraries have been the most vibrant, the most interesting, the most spectacular places to work. And so it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. Of course, libraries are not in every centre and not a very easy thing to manage or to upkeep. They're very expensive and demand a lot of physical space. So we are very happy that we now have, in addition to some libraries, we also have a digital library offer, and this is a wonderful, wonderful offer. Available now in 30 countries, and we've got 100,000+ people who've registered, and we're looking to increase that number dramatically. The digital library offer is a wonderful offer, and it's available for people with many different interests, whether you're an avid reader of fiction, whether you're a researcher or a student at the university, there are many, many different options, many different offers on the platform, and it offers a real smorgasbord, a real treat of UK talent, UK expertise, literature, film, music, etc. And so we heartily invite you to join the digital library and really take advantage of all of the wonderful resources that are available on there. One of the resources that will be available there or is available there is these kinds of opportunities where we get together with authors to discuss their ideas, their thoughts, and the creative process that they go through. And so I'm very, very delighted to introduce you to an old colleague of mine, Anju. I worked in Sri Lanka for nearly 4 years, between 2014 and 2017, and Anju was a colleague then. And it's wonderful to see that Anju is still with the British Council, heading up the education program. And that it's testament to the wonderful work that the British Council does in Sri Lanka. Anju might be a British Council education lead during the day, but she has a secret talent, a secret weapon, and that is her creativity and her wonderful writing. And so we're going to get to hear a little bit about her creative talents and the process that she goes through. And there'll be a time for you to also ask questions and to discuss her experience. So it's with great pleasure that I jump off the line and hand over to friend and colleague Anju. Looking forward to hearing about your experience. Over to you, Anju.
Thank you so much, David. It's full circle to have David do this introduction. So thanks very much and welcome to everyone, and thank you for making time out of your day to be here. I'm really excited. I don't often get to talk about my passion, which is writing. So it's a real privilege and it's a great opportunity to do that. So thank you very much to the library and especially to Anisha, Shiruma, and Yamin for giving me this space, and Neeti, of course. So let me start off by sharing my screen, and I hope this works. I hope we're good.
Yep, we can
Yep.
see you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our theme today is something very close to my heart, celebrating youth. I really like to write about children's fiction and youth, and they're quite central in my writing. So I'm really grateful to be able to talk about it and the power of stories that shape us. As David said, libraries are full of stories, and our lives are full of stories. And if you look back on history, it's all about stories. It's kind of how they've shaped us, told us about what's happened to our ancestors, told us about how our ancestors navigated different things in different ways. But sometimes when you really listen to those stories, you realize that some of the problems are the same, even though we have different things to distract us. Right, so today we will follow a flow of where we first talk about the power of youth literature, and then I'll talk a little bit about my writing journey, and I'll end it off with a little literary term activity just for some fun. And then we'll look at some stories, and I'll talk to you about some of my picks, and then I hope you will share your picks as well, and then we'll reflect a little at the end before we all go away and hopefully pick up a good book to read. This is a very interactive session. I know it's a session full of a lot of participants, but let's try to interact as much as we can using the chat box, or yeah, if you want to ask, pop a question in the chat box as well, you can do that. And Anisha and Yamin are going to help us pick a few questions to talk about at the end. Okay, so first, I'm going to call this part the bookish time machine. So I'd like us to take a minute to go back to your younger self, those of us who can think of our younger self. If you're already young, you can just think about yourself right now. And if you could hand your younger self one book, what would it be and why? I already have an answer for this, but I'm going to wait for a few answers to come in the chat box before I dive into that answer. Okay, is everyone thinking? Okay, we have Harry Potter, career choices, Ruskin Bond. Oh, lots of new books that I've not heard of as well. That's great. Oh, Alice in Wonderland. That's really nice. Okay, complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. You can keep the answers coming in the chat. I'll share one of mine. which was actually recommended to me by an older person at that time, and I didn't understand why she recommended this book to me, but it was Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. And one thing that I learned from that book is how you navigate social relationships and understanding different perspectives. And it's also how the novel just talks about different characters, their motivations, as well as their flaws, and how it helps you navigate like really complex social situations. So that was a book that stayed with me for a while. I read it within one book. It's a really fat book, but it just, lured me in and it stayed with me. And it was also a lot about ambition and morality, how you balance ambition with personal values. And obviously, Vanity Fair is all about moral dilemmas. So that was a very, very nice book. So I will also go through some of these recommendations in the chat. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I'll move on to the next part, which is, power of youth literature and why it matters. And also how books shape identity, empathy, values. So if you were to think about this, could you name a book from your youth, or if you're young, what you're reading right now, that has left a lasting impression for you, and why? Oh, that's wonderful. Nice to know that. Hi, Sundar Paul. That's great to connect with you. So while we're waiting for some answers in the chat, a book that connected with me, like in terms of left a lasting impression for me, was Middlemarch by George Eliot. One thing was the fact that she had to write under a pen name. That really stayed with me. And the book was all about self-discovery and personal growth. And it's a coming of age story. And again, it talks about the complexities of relationships, morality, and personal growth. So it's a really good book, like to think about how to navigate your own life transitions and understanding the complexities of human relationships, which is something that no matter what age you are, is always a tricky thing to navigate. So it was a great book that really impacted my life, especially from the perspective of empathy. Okay. All right, we'll be talking about books that impact. So now that you've thought about the book, if you'd like, you could look at one or two words to pop in the chat about what do youth books mean to you? And did it help you in your own life transitions, and how? Any thoughts? Oh, thank you. Fun imagination. Yes, it has a huge impact when you're impressionable. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about my own writing journey, because it does have a huge impact when you're impressionable and when you're going through your own struggles at that age. I like this. The Alchemist helped me navigate my personal failure during college days. That's really deep. Thank you. Inspiration and see the world through a prism. Wow, wonderful. And wow, that's very deep. Thank you. Any other thoughts? And then the prison breaks in. Okay, I like that. Yes, definitely. But as writers, we love to live in our prism, so we don't like to have these reality checks. Right. So I'll talk a little bit about my writing journey. And I'll first talk about, okay, the inspiration. And if you look at some of my books, there is a common theme of nature in these, and why I chose to write for younger readers and any key messages. And I'd really like to hear from you whether any of this resonates with you, and what are your thoughts? Because it's Readers Club, so it's really wonderful to get together in a group and a community where we all love to read. And again, that's a very rare thing in this day and age. So it's just wonderful to see so many people at this session. Yeah, I love, yeah, like Yamin said, we can see the world through different characters' eyes. That's beautiful. Okay, so when I started thinking about my writing journey, I kind of looked back at other authors and what they said about their writing journey. And here are some quotes on the screen. 5 quotes. I just like you to take some time to read it and see what resonates with you. Okay, so Anne Lamott said, I write because I'm a better person when I'm writing, which resonates with me. And Roald Dahl said, a little nonsense now and then is read by the wisest man. And I love Roald Dahl because of the way he uses words and coined new words to just say exactly what you want to say and feel. And Louisa May Alcott said, I want to do something splendid, something heroic or wonderful that won't be forgotten after I'm dead. I think I shall write books. And that's just beautiful. And Maya Angelou said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. And those of you who write, you know exactly what this is. Because, like, sometimes I need to keep a pen and paper near my bedside table because I have to write down an idea the moment it pops into my head because I'm scared I'll forget it. And Toni Morrison said, if there is a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. So all these really, really resonated with me. And I'll now move on to what I thought about when I started writing. But I thought I'll do a quiz. So I've got 6 sentences there. Thanks, Anindya. Yeah, I love those quotes as well. I'd like you to take a moment to read them through and decide which ones you think are true for me and which ones you think are false. Yeah, Kate, I like that. You can learn to see through different eyes and start being critical and independent. Okay, any guesses to which sentences are true and which sentences are false? Nirmal says all true. Interesting. Let's see. True, true, false, true, true, false. Lokesh. Lokesh, you're closer to the truth. Any other guesses? I like this, Anindya. I used to live in parallel words myself, still do at times. So I say amen to 4, 1, 4, and 5. Okay. Brilliant. I'll give another minute for a few more answers. No one else wants to have a go? Okay, so I'm going to go one by one because I'm not going to give all the answers out at the beginning. Okay, so the first one was I lived partly in imaginary world growing up. And yes, that is true. Um, I think everyone has, challenges growing up, and they kind of have different avenues in which they deal with those challenges. And mine was, you know, okay, rest falls for you. Thanks. Mine was going into imaginary world and having that parallel universe growing up with me. And sometimes it used to be more real than my actual real world. Number two, I wrote for my church and saw how a single piece could deeply move someone. That one is true. I used to write for church quite often, and I never thought it mattered. But then one day, someone stood up in church and gave a testimony about how they were really struggling, and then read this article that was in the newsletter. And then when the person was describing the article, I realized, oh, it's an article that I had written. And they were quoting how it really helped them to navigate a very difficult time in their lives. And that really gave me confidence to think that, okay, what I write about and what I have to say matters and resonates with other people. So it really was a turning point in my life to hear that testimony. Number three is not true because I really struggled with putting my book out there, out into the world, because I was really scared about what other people would think. I was always used to smaller groups of people reading my work, and the book was my longest bit of writing, let's put it that way. And I wasn't sure I was ready for all of that to be out in the world. So it took me actually 7 years to get it out. And I always say it took COVID and the threat of dying to actually put the book out there and say, you know what, I'm going to do it. So it was a very difficult decision for me personally. Number four, yes, it's true. I started with a diary. Again, it was part of this imaginary world growing up. So it's very much connected to number one. It helped me process what I was going through. And then definitely poems, because as I loved writing poems. And then I moved on to stories. Number five, nature, food, imagination, complexity of relationships and animals are all part of what fuels my stories. So that's true for me. I love nature. I love food. I love imagination. And I love talking about how complex relationships are. I was talking to my editor and he said, oh my gosh, you put your characters to so much pain and so much anguish. Are you all right? And I'm like, well, I like to put them in situations and see what happens, and think about all the different ways they can navigate what they're going through. So yes, that does help me. And number six, I write only for adults and plan to stay in that genre is false, because I've primarily written for children and youth and kids. I wrote a few short stories for adults, so I don't know, but I would also like to, write for adults as well at some point. My next book is on focusing on children, but yeah. So I thought I'd try to put some of these thoughts into some quotes as well. But before that, if you would like, you could also write in the chat what first inspires you to write or to dream. Like, was it a book, a place, a person, or a feeling? I must say that I had some fantastic teachers growing up who really encouraged me to write, and some wonderful people around me who encouraged me to write as well. So they made a huge difference to me and my writing journey. So I'm going to show you some quotes that I thought of when I think about, okay, why did I think about writing and what's the point? So the first one is I wrote to find light in my own shadows and found that my stories helped others do the same. And the second was writing was how I gave shape to all the wild and wonderful things I felt but couldn't say. And I think there is something about hiding behind that pen or that piece of paper or the computer, because sometimes you really can't articulate exactly what you're going through unless you put that down in writing. It's true for me. I don't know whether it's true for others as well. And the third one I put there was I write with the heart of a child, for the hearts of children, and for the child in every grown up too. And that's very much there in my books that are written so far, because I like to see things from a children's perspective very much. And India, thank you for your comment. Yeah, that's very true. Okay. So these are the 3 books that I've put out so far. The first one, Jamie's Magical Adventures in Fluffinville. People ask me why I wrote that one, and I think Jamie is a character I created when I was, I don't know, I was 8 or 10, and that name Jamie has stayed with me throughout my entire life, and that story percolated in my head throughout my entire life. And I knew I had to get Jamie's story out of my system. And when you read Jamie, Jamie's going through some complex relationships, and she builds this parallel universe to cope with it. And then there is a journey there. And I think Jamie's really special to me because of that. And that's one of those stories that weighed on my heart significantly. And I really needed to get Jamie out there. The other 2 books are inspired by Yala. Those of you who have been to Sri Lanka or know of Sri Lanka, we have some wonderful wildlife. And Yala is a very special place because the moment I went there, I just felt like connected with the place. So Ella's enchanted Yala and Anya, the spirit of Yala, all circle around Yala, circle around nature, circle around the spirit of animals and humans. And there are some key messages there, especially about, how we should appreciate the opportunity to live in this world, and take care of everything that's around us, the responsibilities that we have, and the consequences of our actions. So Ella explored things in a different way. Anya took it to a different level. But I think the essence is the same in both books. And one of the reasons I wrote about Yala and Sri Lanka is I felt that I nearly needed to write about something Sri Lankan readers can relate to as well. And they can see important places that they're familiar with and how that's kind of woven into a story. And the feedback I've got from kids and children who read it is that's the part they've enjoyed the most. Oh, that's great, Anindya. Thank you for that. Okay, so I've got another little activity, which is where you match the term to the definition. I've got some literary terms on the left. There are 8. And I've got the definition on the right. So I would like to give you some time to see whether you could match that together. Find the right answer. Thanks, Cyril. Okay, we've got 5. Let's see. Excellence. 1H, 7F. Brilliant. Few more guesses. We've got a few more terms up there. Three G. Thanks, David. 8B. Yep. I'm going to give you 1 more minute because there are a few that are a bit challenging, but the others I'm sure you'll be able to get quite easily. Thanks, Shirley. 2B. Ooh, location's done everything. Ooh, thank you, Indu. You okay, 4D, right? Yes, thanks, David, because I had to look up how to pronounce it. At least now I can say I know 1 German word. Okay, so are we ready to look at the answers? Hope so. See lots of right answers there. No, you don't have to. But yes, location was quite fast with matching the terms. Okay, so these are the answers, which I think most all of you got right. So well done. The thing is, like, when I was talking about Middlemarch earlier, like it was a coming of age story. So I guess knowing some of this, or just putting a term to some of the things that we are thinking of really helps, because it helps you think about how to shape your story. Because I think when you talk to people who write, everyone has a different process. And I think you just have to find the process that works for you. But knowing like some key things about a story and what it needs to have to make it really unique, that helps. So the advice I got early on in my writing journey was make sure your characters are relatable to people. And that's why, when I was talking about Vanity Fair and Middlemarch earlier, a lot of the characters have flaws. They're not perfect. And I think that's something to really think about, because people need to be able to relate to what um, they're reading. And even for me personally, when I read, I like to, see the world from a character who is going through some challenges and going through some stuff and is not really responding in the perfect way, because that's not always possible sometimes. So that's why, like, thinking about some of these terms really helps. So some of the stories you'll have a narrator, And of course, you want to have a plot twist just to keep the readers guessing. And one of the other things I learned a lot when I was writing was this whole thing about imagery. Um, I don't know how many of you like to sit in a coffee shop and watch the world go by. I'm one of those people, and I like to observe what other people are doing, not in a stalker kind of way, but in a way to see like the small things in life. And those kind of things, adding them into your stories makes all the difference, because I love reading about, what the color of the tablecloth was, or what was in the vase on the table, or what the person was reading just before, some suspenseful thing happened in the story. So those are just some tips of things to include if you want to go on and write your story or do something like that. Right. So now moving from terms to actual stories. So I'll show you some of the picks from my side. And again, you've already shared a lot of books that have impacted you when you were growing up. But if you have any books that have impacted you now or in the past, or there are some books that are timeless, you can share it in the chat as well. So I'll share with you 8 books, and you can tell me whether you've read it. So you could either drop a heart, or you could just say R. And if you would like to read it, you could say TBR in the chat. So the first one is my all-time favorite, Pride and Prejudice. I absolutely love the book for obvious reasons, but I also love Jane Austen's writing style. And I was hooked on her as a teenager, and I'm still hooked on her. So has anyone read it or would like to read it? Okay, Lakesh. Oh, Indra's already read it. Fantastic. Okay, the second one I have is Brotherless Night. So I absolutely love this book. It's like fact woven into fiction. And it talks a lot about Sri Lanka and what we went through in the conflict era. It's a brilliantly written book. Very, very sad as well. But yeah, absolutely powerful book. It's one of those very, very powerful books. The third one is To Kill a Mockingbird. Thanks, Angie. In the you've read a lot of books, and so has Vaishal. Fantastic. Okay, and the fourth one is The Book Thief, again, which I read in my youth, and was a very special book. Oh, yes. Thanks, Vaishali Nuria. I will show you my fifth one, which is Cain and Abel. Again, a very different genre, but I enjoyed it. It was a good book. And the sixth one I have is Anne of Green Gables. This is something I read as a child, and I loved how Anne navigated her world, and to see the world from her perspective was very eye-opening for me. Okay, and I've got 2 more. The Diary of Anne Frank. Oh, thanks, Nima. Yes, he is. So The Diary of Anne Frank is very different to Anne of Green Gables, but again, a very, very powerful book. And the last one I have is The Wind in the Willows, which is I don't know whether it's a strange book, but again, it's a book that had a lot of impact on my life growing up. Just again, taught me a lot of life lessons. and just helped me escape into, the world of imagination. So that was also one of the special books. So I've got two questions. Again, do any books bring back memories? Which and why? And what's one book you'd give to a young reader today? Any thoughts? You could pop that into the chat. And while you're thinking about that, I'm just going to show you the slide that, well, the final slide, which I wanted to end with. First say thank you, and then to share with you this one quote from Kate DiCamillo. Stories are light. Light is precious in a world so dark. Make some light. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we read. And the second one is a quote from my third book, which is the importance of nature and how that helps you navigate things that you're going through. Thanks, yes, Little Prince. I love that book too. And The Arch, I have not read that. Vaishali, thank you. I shall pick that up. Okay, N3, absolutely. Okay, thank you, Kate. I shall check that out as well. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing, and I don't think we have any questions in the chat. But if you do have any questions, you can ask now, or I don't know, Yamin and Anisha, I don't know if you have any questions received. If not, I will pass back to David. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry.
Sorry, and I haven't seen any questions. So I would like to invite the audience. If you have any question, a burning questions, you can ask Anju now, or maybe if you would like to suggest something for your readers.
Yep. You can raise your hand and we can unmute you for questions.
Yep, and we got one question now.
Yeah, I mean, Lokesh, if you know the answer, you can tell me that. But so I think it also depends on your context. So I know that in other countries there are literary agents, and you usually get published via literary agents. Sri Lanka, it's not really that developed. I know in India also there's a huge literary agent culture. So that usually you would have a literary agent, and then they send you a manuscript, and then if you're lucky, it gets read. And then you all know the stories of how, J.K. Rowling sent a manuscript around and it got rejected. Then finally, this publisher picked it up, and then the rest was history. So again, every time I talk to someone, they always say, just keep writing and don't give up. And if you have a good story, just keep on. And I know that there are literary agents who are on well, it was Twitter, now it's X, and they do put out calls when they're looking at certain types of genres. And they kind of say you can pitch your idea in, like, sometimes they have some criteria on how you can pitch your idea to them. And then if they're interested after that initial pitch, then they reach out to you and ask you to send the rest of the manuscript. So that's just something that I've seen.
Anju, can I just ask you a question? It was very interesting and very good to hear that you say that COVID had some positive insofar as it prompted you to release your first book. Just thinking about the process that you've been talking about, do you have a sort of concrete story in your head and you write that down, or you start with an idea and that evolves and develops into a story and it twists and turns? How does the process happen? Or can you have both? Sometimes it's fully formed and you just put it on paper. Other times it's more of a process. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, David. Thanks. I think I do know people who have the idea in their head and they just put it down. I'm more of I have a few ideas and then it really twists and evolves. A good example is my last book. I thought I'd finished writing it, and then that the ending did not sit well with me. And I remember I kept talking to everyone around me and they thought I was crazy because I was like, she's going through this, and they're like, who is she and what is she going through? And I'm like, well, no, this can't be the end. It was something I was really grappling with for a couple of months, actually. So I kind of wake up sometimes and I think, what would my protagonist do today? How would they deal with the situation? So yeah, it's definitely a process for me, and it evolves very much.
And in that context, then, do you look back at your first book and think, if I was writing this again, it would be different, or you're happy with it and you wouldn't want to change it?
Well, part of me is happy with it, but part of me knows that if I were to write that again, it would go somewhere else. Yeah, for sure. Which I guess is fun.
While we're waiting for other people to perhaps think up some questions, I noticed you mentioned sitting in a cafe and observing people.
Yeah.
And that's also something I like doing, particularly in different places. And I get to be in many different places, and it's just fascinating to watch different cultures and how people do things differently or the same to yourself. Excuse me. I wonder whether I've heard other authors say, "Oh, this character is based on person X or someone I saw in a movie or someone I saw in a cafe." Do you have that kind of response, or it's more just you pick up little ideas or from the observations?
No, I think it's also the people and the experiences, because that's such a good point, because I was again, I get stuck a lot when I'm writing. And then you go somewhere and it's just like sometimes you just go out there and you look at the sky, and then it's the shape of the clouds or the hues of the sky that you see, that you really something triggers in your brain and you're like, oh, this is what can happen. Because there's a scene in my second book, Ella's Enchanted Yala, where they actually go into the middle of the ocean and they dive down. And that was based on me just going outside, going on holiday somewhere and seeing the ocean and seeing some patterns in the clouds and deciding, oh, this could be what needs to happen to Ella next. And I remember I traveled to Bangkok and I went to it was a river, I can't remember, maybe Pangna Beach or something. And there were these sparkles in the river, because when we were going, and I was putting my hand through on the boat. I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to do that, but I was putting my hand in the water and let it go through, and I could see like sparkles in it. And then that's something I weaved into one of the other stories, because I was like, oh, this is a really nice thing to add on. So absolutely, there are shades of experiences and people. I won't say sometimes that one character is one particular person. I think one character is sometimes a combination of people. So when I talk about siblings, or sometimes I use my own personal experience, not only of my siblings, but people I've known really well, and kind of put their character traits into kind of shape a character, which makes it fun. Okay. Because
Thanks, Anju. Before, since there are no questions, I would like to ask you one. I mean, this is more from a reader's perspective, because in the audience or in the participants, maybe there are readers as well. And even for myself, I wanted to know, like how libraries or how can library play a role in imbibing the reading habits as well as the writing? If you can share some words on that.
yeah, and the same. I and I actually need to thank my mom because she went to the, I guess, the British Council Library, and she got me this bunch of books and I absolutely loved them. And then I was like, please, can I come with you the next time? And again, the rest is history. I love sitting in the library. I love reading because also you can't own that many books. But you go to a library and there's so many different genres, and then you find an author you like, and the library will have the entire series. So I love libraries. They're very special places to me, and it's not only the fact that you can sit and read quietly. I've also liked, storytelling sessions where you just go and you not only listen to a story, you do a craft activity or you do some activity around it, which makes it memorable. I also love the concept of book clubs because as you grow older, you read this book and you want to talk to someone about it. You kind of want to kind of explore the themes because again, a good example is when I read Brotherless Night. I was actually walking around trying to find someone else who had read the book, and I'm like, I really need to process this. Can you talk to me about it? So I think it really helps build community, and it helps you really navigate what's going on in your life by processing something someone else has written about.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks, Anju.
I think there's
Okay,
one
yeah.
question in the
I
chat
mean,
from Lawyer.
yes.
Uh, I like
Um,
reading. What advice? Yeah. Oh, well,
yeah.
read. Yes, again, Lawyer, I would suggest go to a library and, pick a book. But again, so I'll give you the advice I give my daughter is, find a topic or theme that you like and just read something related to that because for everyone it's different. Like if I like a particular genre but a particular author, not everyone will. So I always say just find something you like that resonates with you at that time in your life because it changes. A book that resonated with me a year ago might not resonate with me right now because it depends on what I'm going through. So yeah, just pick one of those and give it a go. And thank you, Anindya. Thanks very much for that. I wish that I would have some preconditions for animation or cinematic adaptation. So Steven Spielberg, you can call me anytime, and I promise not to have any preconditions. I'm kidding. But yeah, that will be a dream come true.
Okay, we do not have any more question. Over to you, Yamin.
Thank you. David, would you like to say a few words before we close?
Thank you very much, Anju, and thanks, Anisha and Yamin, for organising this, and Niti and all of the people behind organising this. It's been a fascinating 45 minutes listening to you, Anju, about the process that you go through and the books that have inspired you, the characters that you've related to, etc. I really hope that the audience, and I say we've had a good 40 plus people online, I really hope that you found it interesting, inspiring, and it inspires you to go out and visit your library or to join the digital library at the British Council or whichever library and whichever university or whichever place you're in, and delve into that amazing world of books. Because it is a truly incredible, limitless world out there. Fascinating to hear your insights, Anju, and really heartfelt thank you for sharing what's a very personal journey as well, I can imagine. And it was really inspiring. Thank you, and back over to you, Yamin.
Thank you, David. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I mean, for being part of today's session, and heartfelt thanks to Anju for such an inspiring and thoughtful conversation. Truly appreciate it. And your story and reflection, I mean, your reflection truly remind us how powerful books can be and shaping how we can see the world. And thank you also to David and all of you who share your thought and your reflection. And it's wonderful. I mean, you see your comments and hearing your personal connection to literature. And we hope today's session has left you with new insight and fond memory. And I mean, maybe even a little spark to explore more story and to write your own event. So do stay connected with the British Council and our Reader Club for more sessions like this. And until next time, keep reading and keep sharing your stories. Thank you and have a lovely evenings, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Goodbye,
Thank you.
and have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Bye.
everyone.
weekend.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.